So now we have leads coming in. You have all the potentials asking questions and stuff. So now what? How are you handling those? Would be our next question, or kind of where we want to move in the next direction. And of course, this depends on, and Sherry, maybe you can talk on what that process looks like on Upwork, because I would have no idea what that would even look like. But like for me, and anybody who's doing like social media and stuff, you're probably starting to, one, either if you've been messaging, you have people in your DMs that are like, hey, yeah, I'm interested. I need bookkeeping done. Or if you're just posting, they're probably starting to message you, hey, I need some bookkeeping. I haven't filed my taxes in a couple of years, those sort of things. So one thing that you definitely want to try to do is, if possible, is get them on a call. Because if you can get them on a call, you can ask more questions, you can find out more details and things like that. So I usually try to, once those questions start coming in, how can I get them onto a call to find out more information? Sometimes you will have people though who are like, I just don't want to hop on a call. Can we just do this in the messages? I have closed deals in the messages, text messages, emails, whatever, where I haven't even had an actual phone call conversation with them. So it's not totally impossible to do it that way. It's just easier to have a conversation. And you, of course, you can send DM voice clips back and forth and stuff like that. So you can definitely do everything in the DMs, but you want to start asking them as many questions as you can about their business. What types of questions are we asking? Because the thing you want to do is be able to get them a quote. So as much information as they can tell you about their business. What type of business do they have? Are they an LLC? Are they a single member LLC, S Corp, partnership, C Corp, nonprofit, all those things? You need to know as much information as possible. What are they? And a lot of times people, what is your business? They'll send you the business name. Okay, that doesn't tell you a whole lot. You need to know what kind of business they are. Are they a real estate investor? Or are they just a real estate agent where they're just selling properties? Are they a broker? Different things like that. So you need to ask as many questions as possible. And then one thing I always like to ask is, what are they looking for bookkeeping service wise? Because a lot of times when somebody reaches out, they usually have an idea on what what they know they need done. Sometimes they have no clue. They just, hey, I need reports to turn over to my CPA. But sometimes they have an idea on what that is. And then if you start like your idea and their idea might be totally different, just because people have different perspectives on what is a bookkeeper, what is a CPA, what is a tax person, all those things. So trying to figure out, what are they looking for? What type of services? So coding transactions, reconciling the bank accounts, providing the financial statements. Do they need accounts payable? Do they need you to do invoicing, payroll, all the things? And then you also are going to want to ask as many questions on, like, how many bank accounts do they have? I usually try to get access to their QuickBooks, if at all possible, if they have a QuickBooks set up. Of course, some people don't. If not, then bank statements would be helpful. But if they have QuickBooks set up, then you can tell a lot of this stuff by you going in and looking, because some of it is going to be like, oh, they forgot to tell you, not only do they have 10 bank accounts, they have PayPal and Stripe as well. So different things like that you could see from QuickBooks or the bank statements and stuff. So you want to ask as many questions like that as you can. If you can get access to QuickBooks and the bank statements, then you can tell how many, you can try to figure out how many bank accounts, how many credit cards, how many loans do they have, how many transactions are happening in those bank accounts. I know that's one thing that a lot of people get confused on, whether it's business owners or bookkeepers, when we say transactions. What are we talking transactions? A lot of business owners first thought, when you say how many transactions do you have, they're thinking like, how many sales do they have? That's not necessarily what you need to be able to give them a. Go ahead, Sherry. Were you gonna say something?
No, I am so glad you said that.
I saw your face. I was like, did I say something wrong?
No, I heard someone say the number of transactions someone had this week, and that was my first thought, is I'm pretty sure that's sales and maybe not necessarily indicative of the workload.
Yeah. That might be the same person. Yeah, same conversation that I had this week about it. Because yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, I have X number of transactions. Okay. Like an example, if they're counting every single sale, if you have one deposit at the end of the day or at the end of the week or however you do it, all your specifically touching normally is that one deposit, not every single sale that came through the store that day or whatever it is, just as an example. So it's definitely that is one of those things that gets totally confusing with people. It's not every single sale, it's how many transactions are coming through the bank account, the credit card, all the different things. So that's why it's important how many credit cards, how many transactions, how many bank accounts, all the things. And then, of course, what services are you providing? Do they need 1099s? All of those things. And we do have a very extensive list if you're in our program that goes through all of the questions you need to make sure that you're asking. Loans would be another one you're going to want to make sure. And then, of course, depending on the type of business, that should lead into maybe some other questions. If they're nonprofits, or they accept, how are they getting their funding? Is it grants, donations? But some of those are going to be more niche based questions. So yeah, those are going to be the things that would help you then be able to quote the client and figure out based on that how many hours, how many things, how long is it going to take you to do their books. Sherry, is the process in Upwork similar for,
Yeah.
I think, do they send you I don't know how Upwork works. They send you a request or you send them a proposal first?
You send them a proposal first. And guys, I did a very in-depth 2.5 hour training for you guys in the Bookkeeper Blueprint if you want to take a look at it. And it shows you everything I did, but I wanted to show you. So like I give you the proposals and all of those things, but it is all about numbers at the end of the day. And if you were to send out 300 proposals a month in 2022, these are the actual numbers I did. So with 940 proposals, I had 66 interviews, 37 discovery calls. I hired about 7.4. I think there were some like one-time jobs, things like that. Average bookkeeping rate was $861. Revenue 6374.36, and actually earned was 1,500 or 15,000 because I already had clients from 2021, 2020 going through there. This is my math model that I use. So 300 proposals are going to get you at least 30 interviews, give or take. We'll have about 15 discovery calls from there. And then that will lead to at least three clients. I did 3 to 5 a day when I got started, most days, and not every day. I did my best to do it every day, but it was about 3 to 5 a day. But if you're looking to increase your quickly, this is a good way to do it. All of the proposals, how to set up your profile is all in that Upwork training, for sure. But I was doing about 3 to 5 a day when I first got started. And that was probably 50 to 90 proposals a month that I was sending out. Get to the point where I was doing 300 a month very intentionally because I was looking to grow pretty quickly. When I did that, when I wanted to go full time, and I pulled the trigger on doing that. But when I first got started, and actually, I'll show you guys one more. Let me do this. So for me in 2021, I had my third little one, so three and under. I was making 14,000 as a full-time stay-at-home mom. And I took maternity leave. So I hired a contractor to help me with maternity leave. And I still wasn't working. I wasn't working 40 hours a week. So I say full-time stay-at-home mom. I wasn't working full-time in the business. But like August, I created my Upwork profile. I had a one-time job of $600. In October, I was found by search. And that client is still a client to this day. When I did the presentation, and is still a client now 2 years after doing this presentation, and they're still a client. You can find good clients from Upwork. As of December, I had made $2,000 from Upwork, and that was where I was exclusively doing my marketing. I had found out that I was expecting again, and that was 3 months. That was more than I had made on any other side gig. So what happens on Upwork is you do those proposals, they'll send you a message back. And I talk about how to do those proposals so you do get the messages back and you can stand out from the 20, 50, 100 proposals that they receive. Everything from your profile picture, one that's important, how to talk to them in a language that they'll want to message you back on. From that message, you can invite them to get on a call. You can schedule like a discovery call from there. Like you can ask them some more questions, get some more information. You could do the whole quoting process in the message thread if you want. I found my conversion rate was really high if I got them on a call, either a phone call or a Zoom call. I did not do the numbers on which one converted higher because I think I just switched to video calls so quickly because of COVID and everyone was doing video calls. It was just easier of the times at that point in time. And once you get them on discovery call, I do capture their email address because you don't get access to these people. They are Upwork's client. They are on Upwork. You are charging them through Upwork, things like that, if you stay on the Upwork platform. I go ahead and get their email list or get their email so I can add them to my email list, because if they sign up through my email list, later they're my client and I don't have to split the income with Upwork. Most of my clients didn't want to stay on Upwork. And so when I sent them the proposal, they just signed and left Upwork by their own choosing. I did have a couple of clients stay in Upwork, totally fine, not a big deal. You're either going to pay Upwork costs or you're going to pay processing fees, and like either's fine. There's some pros to keeping them on Upwork. There are some cons to keeping them on Upwork, but the process is the same. So you'll quote them on a discovery call. If you cannot quote them on that first call, your goal is to schedule a second follow-up call. And this is with any client. So Upwork, non-Upwork, schedule that second follow-up call, get them to confirm it, preferably that same week. So if you meet with them on Tuesday, can you meet with them on Thursday? You're going to get the quote. If you need help with the quoting, me, Megan, any of the coaches can help you with the quoting. You'll show up on Thursday with the proposal ready for them to sign. You're going to ask them if they have any questions. You're going to hear that feedback. You're going to see their face, which is why we encourage a lot of you guys to do video calls, because you can see their facial reaction when you give them. It's $400 a month. You're going to see, oh, they were expecting so much more. So did you miss something? Are you on the right track? Are you giving them the service that they wanted? Or you're going to see them gasp and be like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be that much. And you can address those things right there because you're getting that visual, you're hearing it, you're seeing it, all of those things. And you can address the objections right there. So once you go through the quoting, sign them. You don't have to do an onboarding call. I do, but it's not typically like the onboarding call I do isn't for me to get started. I get everything. I take them through the portal. I get access to their bank. I get their tax returns. So I request the last 3 years of tax returns. Some of you guys don't request any. That's totally up to you. And so I do that all through my portal. And then I invite them, once they're done with all of that, to schedule an onboarding call. And that allows me time, because typically that's another 2 weeks out if my calendar is full, because you guys keep my calendar very full, which is fun and great. And I love it. But so it's typically 2 weeks. So it's 2 weeks of me working, could be 4 weeks by the time they've gotten me everything and they're ready to schedule that. So I'm in their books. I've gotten questions. And so I take all those questions to the onboarding call and say, okay, here's the next step. And then I can use that onboarding call as working call. Like, it's not just an onboarding call of here's what to expect. It's, hey, I've been in your books. Here's the questions I have. What else am I missing? Oh, hey, I found a credit card that you didn't tell me about. I found a loan. Can you give me more information about this? And I can use it to troubleshoot everything. And I have found that onboarding call increases my retention of my clients. So the clients that I didn't do those would stay with me for maybe a year or under. Clients that I did have that one-to-one time with, that helped ensure the 3-year minimum retention that your goal is. Guys, you can do paid discovery calls, especially if you're on Upwork. There's a couple of things about it. I don't do paid. I thought about it like, hey, we can do a paid call and you can credit their first month's bookkeeping services for it if they sign on. But with Upwork, I had to factor in the no-shows, because I would have people schedule, they thought they wanted to call, and they would no-show. My no-show rate was higher on Upwork than any other marketing that I've done, but I could get the volume in. So the no-show rate, if you took a screenshot of that math that I did or anything like that, that was factored in to all of those numbers. And you're not going to hear, I hear people do Upwork and they're like, I've sent 5 proposals. I've sent 10 proposals. I've heard nothing back. I wouldn't expect you to. I wouldn't expect you to. So if you just, if all you've done with Upwork is exhaust your free credits that you get for signing up, you haven't done enough work on Upwork to really test it. If you've sent out 100 proposals and you haven't gotten if you've sent out 50 and you haven't gotten a single call, there's a problem. If you've sent out 100 and you don't have a client, there might be a problem with your process. And I can help troubleshoot. I also did paid diagnostic reviews. I did start doing that for Upwork, and those clients were better clients overall, typically too. So anytime they're willing to pay you to do any work for them up front before you're actually officially their bookkeeper, that's a good sign. Okay, so we were talking about what to do after you get the potential.
Yeah, just now they have leads coming in. So how do we turn those leads into clients?
And we talked a little bit about like how to quote them. One of the reasons me and Megan see bookkeepers get leads, especially once you get leads coming. So if you're getting you're talking to 5 people a week, which should be your minimum goal, by the way, and you're not signing them. Like you're sending engagement letters, you've sent like 4 this month, but you haven't signed any. We probably want to also look at your quoting, because we talked about this with Cameron too, for any of you guys that are in Cameron Montgomery's. He's with Apex
Apex.
but he
Yeah.
he has a monthly marketing program for bookkeepers. And if you were in that, we did a presentation a couple of weeks ago now, I guess, specifically on quoting, because if you don't have a compass, you're getting all these leads, but you don't have a compass. And then you start wondering why you're not closing them. It's because you have no consistency. So anytime you're testing something, if we go back to the world of science, you want to test one thing at a time, right? So like these business owners are coming to you. If you give them all a different quote based on different things, so like you made 4,000 in revenue, so I'm going to quote you percentage. Oh, you only made 100,000 in revenue, so I'm going to quote you based on transactions. And there's no like consistency in how you're quoting, you just change the methodology. You don't know if either of them would have signed if you had done the same quoting to both. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So do apply the world of experimentation, science, testing. That way you can really drill down on like, is it how you're showing up on the sales call? Often with bookkeeping, yes, that can definitely play a role, but I don't think that's the number one issue with not closing clients. It could be, but that would be you would unfortunately be the exception to the rule. What we see. Okay. So I just wanted to throw that out there, but for sure, I think Megan had a lot of really good thoughts.
If you don't hear back when you're sending quotes and things, I like Sherry's suggestion of going ahead and scheduling like the second call after that. One, don't feel like you have to quote on a call, but like right then and there if you don't feel comfortable yet. But if they haven't told you no, it's not a no. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, I haven't heard back from them, so they're not going to sign. It could be that they've just gotten busy and they haven't had a chance to review, do all the things. So something to think about and to continue to follow up, especially with the holidays and stuff coming up. I've had people where I've reached out and was just like, hey, happy holidays, and not even mentioned anything about the quote or anything like that. And they're like, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to get back with you. And it's just because I'm guilty of it as well. Sometimes you're on the go, you see an email come across on your phone, you're like, oh, I need to look at this. And then something else takes your mind off of it. And then you just totally forget like that person sent an email because now you got 50 other emails come through. So it just happens sometimes. It's not that let me say it like this. It's not that they're always just ignoring you. A lot of times that's not the case. So continue to follow up. And then sometimes even if they say no, you could still send them happy holidays. You can still, because you never know. Of course, don't, if they tell you to stop spamming them or something like that, stop. I'm not saying that at all by any means. But just because they have hired another bookkeeper doesn't mean that at a later time, or maybe your quote scared them now, but now in a year they've grown and now they really want to pay somebody to do their bookkeeping. They may come back. So don't feel like it's a no forever. Another thing I wanted to touch on a little bit, we had some questions this week on how to send proposals, how fancy should that look, and those types of things. One thing you have to figure out with this entire thing is what works for you, your potentials, the niche that you're trying to work with, the types of clients that you're trying to work with, and all the things. Some people do send out the fancy long proposals. It works great for them. If you try that and it's not working, try something else. It's not, there's nothing that's like set in stone. For me, the types of business owners that I found that I'm working with, if I send them a 10-page proposal, they're not going to read it. So I'm not wasting my time in making this fancy thing on Canva and sending it over. So I normally just try to send in the body of the email exactly what the quote is, what we talked about, what services are going to be included. So something along those lines. So there's no, this is the only way to send a proposal and all the things, because a lot of people get so hung up on, I have to have it in Canva, I have to have this certain template, and I have to have all those things. No, you don't. You can literally just send them the engagement letter and the ACH agreement. I've done it before. And just, hey, here's the price, here's the quote. It doesn't have to be fancy. So don't let that hold you back.
I did not even have a way to electronically sign my first engagement letters.
Me neither. Mine were literally attachments to the email. They had to print them off and sign them back. And fun fact, there is let me tell you, a Turbo Scan is an app on your phone where you can take a picture, they can take a picture, whoever can take a picture and scan it as an attachment. And nobody has to even know. But yeah, totally get that.
Yep. Man, I think I still have the printer somewhere, but it was rough scanning it. There were some scanner apps at that point in time, but they were not as easy to use as they are now. There were a couple. I think that's just something to note, like at any point during your processes. So you're getting leads, you have to figure out how to get your leads. So are you going to execute something that me and Megan are talking about? Are you going to do your own thing? Are you going to try Upwork? Are you going to try Instagram? Are you going to try LinkedIn? You have to decide, alignable, whatever you're going to do to go talk to people. BNI. We have to consistently execute it. We do have to have consistent quoting. I can tell you by watching hundreds of bookkeepers at this point in time, not having a consistent way to quote is going to be a pitfall. Megan has a consistent way to quote. I have a consistent way to quote. And it does two things. One, it allows you to show up with confidence that the quote is correct. Two, it allows you to get the quote out quickly. And I'm not saying you have to send it out within an hour of talking to the client. It can be the next day, especially if you're feeling like, oh, I don't want to sound desperate. Send it out the next day, that's fine, but don't wait a week. You don't want to meet with the client on Monday, send it out on Friday. You want to respect their time too. So if you meet with them on Monday, no later than Wednesday morning are we sending this thing out. We want to keep that conversation going. After that, now we have a process. What is your follow-up process? How are you going to follow up? Isn't there like the cheesy saying, the fortune's in the follow-up? But there's a lot of truth to that. And I've tested Megan's just say, hey, happy holiday. Whatever the holiday is, hey, happy new year. These are my holiday hours. I've gotten sly with it. Like, how am I going to just randomly email these people? It can be your holiday hours. It can be, hey, I just want to let you know I'm out of the office this week. I'm just letting people on my, it can be stories. Hey, this week I met with a business owner who is dealing with this. If you're dealing or know anyone who's dealing with something like this, I can help. Let me know. And it can just be a Gmail. So you don't have to have an email marketing system set up. You can just personally email people as long as you have their permission to do so. If they've gotten on your calendar and you're just saying, hey, Tom, I'm sending you an individual email, you can do that. There was one other thing I wanted to say after that, but oh, and then I would track what's going on if you're really feeling like, because we've seen bookkeepers go several months without doing enough marketing to get the leads, or they're getting the leads, but they're not quoting right or something, and then they get stuck. So I wanted to address getting stuck before we wrap up and all of those things. If you're stuck, like I know one time I got stuck with no one was going to sign over what, like $97,
90, yeah.
And I like went backwards, but it was because I was just like, one of the issues was I wasn't getting enough. I wasn't doing enough volume to get the yeses, the good yeses. And that led to me doubting either what I was doing or what I was quoting or whatever. I still to this day don't really know exactly what it was. It was just this compound of now I'm stuck. And truly, no one was signing over that amount. And I finally got a friend. I revamped my Facebook. I showed up differently. I needed it for myself to like restart. I had a friend call me on her way to her tax, her CPA to do her tax return. And she was like, is this what you do? I never want to do this again. Yes, that's exactly what I do. So apparently I wasn't even being clear with what I did. But that was right after I had the conversation. It was about 3 months after I had the conversation with Megan. And I quoted them like 175. How was I? They were a $300 client for sure. But I completely undercut myself because I was like, I just need a signed client. It's really why we have quoting calculators, and it's okay to stick with your quoting calculator. But they were a friend and I wanted them as a client, all of those things. They have come up since then graciously. Have allowed me to increase their quote. But yeah, you don't have to do that. Since then, I've gone to the other side. So you can do something like, okay, I just need some wins. If you're in a place like I was where you just need some wins, lower your price for the next 3 quotes. Not a ton, but lower it $25. And then after every time someone signs, raise it $25. Raise your base minimum $25. Or raise your price per transaction by 10 cents a transaction or whatever it is, 5 cents a transaction, because that can add up. What was I was trying to do like 2 cents, 2.5 cents per transaction. And you can do that on the quoting calculator. So you would just add 2.5 cents to it per transaction. And then that's about $25 per 100 transaction. Does that make sense how I did that? So if you're using that Excel sheet, that's how you can do it. If you don't want to add like a base fee or something like that. I then did, one of the first price increases I did was an admin fee to everyone. Like consistently when I was like, okay, I'm going to raise my rate. So I raised my rate and then I added a $25 admin to everyone's like renewals. Over the years, I've had only one client not accept that. No, 2 clients not accept that. And that's because they're super price sensitive. And I spend so little time on them that it's just not worth it. Also, if they left, I probably also, it would be fine too. But they're so tiny. But I enjoy them as clients. Like I enjoy having them. Their work is easy and they just want it done. So it works out. Have a good
Tomorrow.
weekend. Bye.
Bye.